got Mark with us this week for his bi-weekly, hey, here's what I did, here's what I didn't, here's what worked, here's what flopped, and here's what we got to work on. To the HPLS podcast. Live, relevant, and high performance information, conversations, and education weekly. All right, so first things first, do we call it out? DJ, I think we call it out, right? That is not a background behind Mark.
No.
Mark is actually coming from Turks and Caicos. We got like 3 major points in the world here that we're covering. We got a pretty awesome triangle going.
I like
Turks
it. I like it.
Mark is enjoying a little bit of needed R&R, and he said, you know what, I'm going to come up and I'm going to talk to you guys. So I'm interested to see what Mark's wins and losses are for me, because I kind of lost out when I missed last call. I won when I was there to get first call. You know, there's different wins and losses when you're on vacation than what we're doing.
Yeah.
So that'll be interesting to see. Good morning, everybody.
Morning, Lisa.
Good morning. There we go. She got her crown back for being first on the call. So wins and losses. Who wants to go first? Oh, hold on. Before we even do that, gosh. You can't forget the watch.
Yeah. I needed that. I couldn't focus on what my win and loss without that. So thank you.
Very colorful.
It is such bullshit, but okay. All right. So who wants to start? And you know what? Here's what I was thinking for today, guys. If you guys are interested, if anyone's interested in coming up with us on, I don't know, I guess, would you call it the stage or the broadcast, I guess?
Yeah.
If anyone's interested in coming up with us on the broadcast to share their wins and losses, let me know, give us a comment, and I'll actually put the link in the comments to jump on and kind of, you know, make sure your teeth are brushed and your hair's done and jump on. Like Mark doesn't really have that problem. We talked about that the other day. Mark, it must have taken you forever to get ready this morning, brother. So, you know what? I say DJ Mark starts with his wins and losses.
I agree.
All right.
Yeah. Why don't we? Can you hear me?
I mean, he's got a win. Look at him where he's at right now.
Yeah.
I'm using my son's earpods, and they're not the best on the planet. So hopefully you can hear me okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be shouting incredibly loud. There's a villa just over there somewhere that's going to be joining this conversation just because I'm shouting in their general direction. So listen, look. I mean, win number 1, right? Here we are, managed to get away for some winter sun. It's very typical for us, like during spring break, to take our family away to some warmer climes, as it were. So that for us is always a win. But a couple of wins this week. Number 1, even though I've been on vacation, you're never really on vacation, as I'm sure you can all appreciate. Which is, I think I'm gonna circle back to that being a loss as well in a second. But like the win for me this week is some of the referral partners that we work with have come good over the last couple of weeks and encouraged some of their clients to talk to us, and those conversations were very fruitful and turned out to be accounts. So we have some new business this week, which we the business is coming in, in dribs and drabs, which is pretty good, and that's kind of like how we really want it. We don't want to be inundated with 1,000 applications. That's not our style. But I'm calling out these specifically this week, largely because of the referral partners that we work with, and the key for me really there is to emphasize, I guess, the power of relationships, like keeping those relationships warm yourselves, but also the partners that we work with, keeping their relationships warm. And that's why we work with those types of partners, because they're very much akin to what we're about, which is all about relationships. And as cheesy and as cliche as that is, I don't give a shit. That's how we operate. So that really for me is a big win. The second win is I mastered the Rubik's Cube this week, and I did that in less than 3 hours. So I'm very happy.
Less than 3 hours. Nice.
That was 3 hours of me watching the same YouTube clip over.
So you learned the patterns, is what you're saying.
That's it. Yeah, I didn't master the cube. I learned the algorithm. to solve the queue.
There it is.
Yeah. Now I don't need to watch 3 hours worth of video. I can do that on my own. And that was not that it was a life ambition or a goal, but I had a Rubik's Cube as a kid, as an 9 year old. And my 8 year old now was bought one just for this vacation, just to keep his mind ticking over. And I thought, right, you're not having that. That's mine. And yeah, so that was my key win. But the loss for this week, coming back to what I started off really with, is we're on vacation, but we're never on vacation. So for me, like, yeah, taking the time out to spend time like working on presentations, etc., interfering with family time, that for me is a loss. I'd like to think that I have that balance. I do, but then it's easy to say that, yeah, I'm not an addict when you are. And my wife calls me out a lot and says, "I don't know as you do." So I have to listen to her, because she's the kind of brains and the reasoning behind the relationship, or in the relationship. So, but my personal view is I'm trying, at least I'm trying my best to manage that balance. Now, where my wife doesn't totally fully understand is that men, we have an empty box in our head, and we can very quickly go from like 3,000 miles an hour of doing calculations to that empty box in a split second. So when I'm like working on a presentation and doing emails and all that kind of stuff, and then I turn to my family, my wife still thinks my head's in that calculation box, but I've switched to the family already, right? Because that's how men are. We're dumb as bags of rocks, and nothing's connected in our minds. It's here or it's here. So there's no blurred line. But I can't make my wife understand that.
I think when you're dedicated and when you love what you do, I don't think you ever turn off. I really don't. And I mean,
hard.
you know what? I remember someone saying, and I forget who said it, when it comes to, that work-life balance. I'm pretty sure it was Gary Vee. He says you are never going to spend as much time with the family or with your friends than you do with work. Like if
Yeah.
you love what you do, if you just punch a clock and that's it, and as soon as the clock's done, as soon as that time thing is done, you're done. Okay, maybe. But he says, like, never. He goes, but it's that quality time, Mark. It's that time that you spend where,
Exactly.
you're fully immersed and you're fully present. And I've been on both levels of the fence, where you're sitting with your family and your head's at work. And when you're at work, your head's with the family. Right. I mean, that's that's the big Rubik's cube of life
Yes.
that I think most
Yes.
parents struggle with.
Yeah.
I remember my wife and I were in the Caribbean Sea, and we're sitting on this beautiful boat. We're on the balcony and we're both checking work email in the middle of the Caribbean Sea. So I get it. And, every vacation, it's up 3 hours, 2 hours before anyone else. I do a bit of work in, and then that way, if I can give you any suggestion, it's get up a little bit
Oh,
earlier, and then, but brother, you're there, you're doing what you need to do. You're getting some rest. You're getting some R&R.
100%.
You know, like,
and
Look,
I
look at
think
look
too.
at
I think
disappointed
too.
with this cloud.
I think
yeah,
too.
well, there you go. Now you get a little reprieve. The head gets a little reprieve from the sun. You're good.
He's trying to keep it out of the sun.
Yeah.
You've done a good
Ryan
job,
says,
my
Mark,
friend.
I'm envious your current geographical location. Kenneth, that's my man, Mark. To come
Yeah.
and join us from constantly working on the balance. Yeah, Lisa is. I know that. For you just to come and join us, Mark, from where you are, I mean, it says something. It says a
Exactly.
lot about you.
I have my family.
You're with your family, but you're also an inspiration to others to say, hey, like, listen, even though I'm out here, I'm coming to help share kind of wins and losses and what your life looks like on vacation. And I think it's important for all guides, for all, quote unquote business leaders, for all management, for everybody that loves what they do and has a passion for what they do. Because I think we all think like nobody else does this. Like nobody else wakes up and sneaks off for half an hour at lunch to go answer a few emails and then comes back and nobody does it. But I think we all do. right? And you're
And
showing
I'm so
that we do.
glad you mentioned that too, because that's the guilt that Mark, you're probably talking about a little bit. That's the guilt we all feel that when we do that. Tom, you said it in one of the videos I watched of him. He said this still multi-billionaire, billionaire, few different billion-dollar companies, and he said his rule Monday through Friday. His wife knows it. He has no kids because they're afraid to do that. But no, his wife knows Monday through Friday. If he's up, he's either working or working out. Nothing else. There's no. They even won't have sex during the week. They only have sex on the weekends. That's how dedicated he is to it. But that's what it takes to get there. And so you're just proving that. And so it's more the quality. It's more the quality in the amount of time you give that attention than the quantity.
So in the last couple of times that we've been away, last couple of years, I've been a little bit more open, a little bit more honest to my wife about the amount of work that I actually do. And so for 10, 12, 15 years prior to that, I'd have what I call FPBs, fake pee breaks. So I would then just take myself off to the bathroom and just be like banging out emails to the point where my wife would always say to me coming back from vacation, I think you've got a medical issue. I think you really need to go and get that sorted out. I haven't even used the bathroom once.
Mark, we know you have a medical issue, but I don't know if it's work. You know what I'm saying?
I agree with that. I'm going to agree with that.
I think we all do. We're all crazy in some which way, shape, or form, but you do. I love you, brother. And I love you for it, brother. That's the whole thing. That's why you're on all the time, because we just love the fact that you do. So actually, you know what, guys? So hold on just a sec. So Hayden actually said, "Good morning, gang. Mark, I'm envious of your geographical location." And Hayden, I apologize because when I flipped to you and then I flipped to Ryan, because I said Ryan said it, you see that picture? It's pretty much the same picture. And so I apologize, boys. I got you two mixed up. Hayden was on yesterday. I'm telling you, what a great show yesterday, Mark. You're gonna have to go back when you want to get away for 30 minutes with the family and watch yesterday's show. Winning the community service award at work. My loss, learning, assuming what a prospect thinks instead of just asking. Big one, Ryan.
Man, right? Yes, and shout out to Ryan. You deserve that community service award, man. Mm-hmm. That's congrats on that. That's amazing.
Yeah, and you know what? I'll just say, when Ryan brought in that third dog, he had a rescue dog that he was just supposed to house for 2 weeks. As soon as he told me, I go, dude, you know you have a third dog. He goes, no, she's going back. He just adopted the third dog. So and that's the thing with animals, right? You bring them in your house, they're yours. That's it. When we were talking about a second dog, I said to my wife, I said, if we drive there, we're coming home with the dog, right? She goes, yeah, I know. And it's like, right? Like quit beating around the bush, 8 mile of shit out of that. You understand. Let's call a spade a spade. Let's just go and get it done right away, right? But so Hayden, Ryan, I apologize for that, my friends. And then Ryan says, whoa, I'll take it when I can get it. So yeah, that's hilarious. So okay, DJ. So Mark, Mark, before we go to DJ, so with that loss and win, what are some of the things, because this is the big part of wins and losses, what are some of the things you're implementing or things you thought about or things you want to implement when it comes to correcting what you see as that loss, even if it's just a mind shift? Where are you at with that, brother?
Yeah, there's little that I'm ever going to change about a win. Although always keep looking at it, right? There's always probably some fine tuning you can do, but certainly from a loss perspective, listen to my wife. She knows way more than I do. Honestly, I just need to get out of my own ego, get out of my own head, and just listen to what other people are saying around me. Focus on other people. It's not just me that's in this. My family are in this as well. My business partners are in this as well. Mm-hmm. So our clients are in this with us. And actually, looking at that, one of those comments to the right, I think it was Ryan, that said, like, assuming, never assume. Like, certainly never, and never be afraid to ask it. And I'm now talking more to Ryan, I suppose. Never be afraid to ask a client, like, what are you thinking? Like, what can I do to help you get over the line? Like, what could I do better? What didn't? And even if you don't win a deal, go back to them and ask them the question, like, what was it that didn't get me across the line? What was it about somebody else that either led you to go with them or stay with them? Like, why did you make that decision not to go with me? So never be afraid to ask that. What's the worst that's going to happen? Like your hair color? Cut your hair.
Yeah. DJ, isn't that so in line with what I sent you guys in our inner circle chat yesterday, and then I
Yep.
sent Lisa and Chad in our inner circle chat? Same thing. I had a prospect come back and say, "Yeah, not interested." I said, "Hey, listen, from a marketing perspective, I'd love to understand why." And he came back with this wonderful explanation. I was like, "Man, makes total sense." And we actually have hit it off since then, and we have a call coming up. And just from that one question, if you don't mind me asking, like, why? What's the reasoning? What's the where's your head at? What's the perspective? Because again, you'd hate to keep blowing up somebody's inbox, following up with them when there's no, like, you're, again, right message, right person, missing each other, boats passing in the wind at night. But yeah,
Yeah.
When I
sweet. What do we got? What do we got here? What do we got here, DJ?
when I think yeah, I agree. When it comes to losses, I own it and
Mm,
divorce it. That's right.
mm,
Realize what happened, learn from it, and get rid of it. On to the next. But
Yeah.
mhm,
um, man, I think Mark. Just to touch on that before I go to my wins and losses, you touched on something so great. Was the you mentioned in your head you can't get out of it listening to your partners, but then going back for that answer. I think even going back for that answer, besides the value we get from when they give us their feedback of, like you said, Dan, that they gave you really good feedback on why they didn't. I think even more, it just helps with your brain to what happened, so you're not wondering, especially if it's a deal that you felt like maybe it was going a different way and it switched
mm,
on you. It's just going to get that out of your head, like, okay, this is what happened, this is where I screwed up, I don't have to worry about it anymore, because
mhm.
sometimes that'll eat you alive. So
And
yeah.
it'll eat you alive to a point where you'll break your own spirit.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And once that happens, it's like, do you remember when we had the day long stream? DJ
Yeah.
Marcus Ogden came on and said, "Bend, don't break."
Yes.
Right.
Right.
And like, what
Yes.
an amazing man. And from a man that went from NFL all-star to
Right.
janitor to, like sitting a multimillionaire to broke, having his house repossessed, his cars repossessed, and sitting on the corner of a street with sour milk all over him, realizing, how much lower can I go here before I bounce? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And
Yeah.
all of that. And like, I don't think the three of us or anyone that has not been in that situation can really understand the dynamics. I mean, his whole life, he
Yeah.
worked to get to the NFL. He
And he
got there,
did it.
made
Yes.
did it, made millions, said, "I'm going to go start something else," because he realized, you keep smashing your head against the wall, eventually your head stops working. So he got out early, you know what I mean, like had that plan, that business.
Yeah.
And then to have I mean, you got to think of the emotional teardown and rebuild, that mental, that self-respect, like everything, that male ego that you were talking about, Mark.
Yes.
Dude, that one's huge, right? So I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, DJ. So go. Sorry, brother. Keep
No,
going.
no, no worries. So, wins losses this week. Win was definitely met a amazing, super amazing person in the liquidation kind of industry that probably going to be doing some big things with. So, shout out to Caroline. But yeah, pretty. It was just such a great meeting. Actually, it went out. And so my big win. I like to meet people in person. That's why I love these videos, and that being able to, at least here in Ohio, COVID's really fading away, the mask and everybody being crazy and all of that stuff. So, just being able to be out and go out, I like to go see people. So, I on was it Wednesday? I don't remember, Wednesday or Tuesday. I'm like, I'm just gonna go visit a few places local and see what they're doing and just talk and really get on the same level with them as I'm kind of making these steps with this other thing. And it was amazing. And she left me with the greatest. So Maggie says this is something, I don't know why I never heard of it, but she said, team, together everyone achieves more. And this was the lady that I met. And I'm like, oh my goodness, you need to get on the show. So she's probably going to come on the show as
Yeah,
well. So,
perfect.
so
That
yeah,
works,
it was,
man.
it was pretty awesome.
And what about loss? What'd you lose? What kind of
Law,
set you back this week?
loss was not enough traction on emails that I was sending, so I kind of reshifted it. I actually used one of Dan's templates. Thank you, Dan, and started to see a little response. So that was implementing, really just reaching out to, okay, my implementation was stealing from Dan. So steal from Dan if you need to.
So what have so again, my next question, obviously, you know what that's going to be, DJ.
Oh yeah.
Like
Oh, yeah.
what have you put into place, or what kind of processes you start thinking about? What was the mental side of it to help other people that might be like, you know what, shit, DJ, man, like I screwed up on my follow-ups this week, and you know, to put into place for next week or today. No, let me rephrase that. Put into place now that
Yeah,
can
right
help
now.
them get back on track and
Exactly.
maybe not lose that. Like, what
It,
did you figure anything out? Did
yeah,
you
yeah.
kind of just realize you screwed your
It was
time?
really staying. So from the again weeks, guys. We get it when you're doing this kind of stuff. There, you get lost in the sauce sometimes, and so it was staying focused on the data, and the data was telling me, sending so many emails, sending so many things I wasn't getting, and it was focusing more on that. So my numbers, my approaches, my accounts, and figuring out what kind of open rate I was getting. I wasn't watching that closely
So
enough.
he's kind
So
of pulling an audible and going back
yeah,
to the beginning and say where,
exactly.
yeah. And I think, brother, that is like one exercise as a sales rep that just opens your eyes to
Yes, it
so
does.
much.
Yes, it does. Oh yeah. So yeah,
Yeah,
that was
it's
crucial.
crazy. Yeah, it is. And I don't think we give it enough credit, right? That whole audible sanitization, like sanitizing your pipeline, like I really don't think as sales reps, because it's that. But is there
Well,
a
because it
possibility? Like
becomes our baby. I feel like
yeah,
it's like the
you
Shark
hang
Tank
on to that
idea. It's
possibility.
like that Mr. Wonderful telling you go take it to the barn and kill it. It's dead. And sometimes that's your list. Sometimes that's your pipeline. You might have taken months to build that thing, but it's like, what did I what did I who are these people? What was I
Mhm.
thinking? And you just gotta start new. Sometimes you just
Mark,
gotta
Mark
start
just put on. Mark just became camouflage. You see that? You see his
new.
shirt in the
Yeah,
background.
I
He
know.
just totally camouflaged
Chameleon.
right in, man.
He's
Like
blending.
he's a full on Navy SEAL now in the Caribbean. Like, holy crap! You know what I'm saying? He just disappeared, brother. That's awesome. You know,
Oh,
DJ,
thank you.
I'm really happy for you that you
Thank
made
you,
that
man.
connection so quick.
Yeah.
I'm really happy for you. I hope those open rates increase.
It did.
Um,
As soon as I shifted, yeah, it did. So
yeah,
and
it's
started to pay
amazing,
attention.
right? One little tiny tweak
Yep.
and the results. You know, so Bob Proctor was one of my first mentors. God bless his soul. Rest in peace. And you know,
Amazing
he
man.
said one thing to me that totally changed my perspective on so many things. He said, Dan, think of it like this. If you leave Miami, Florida, and your destination's Toronto, so if Miami's here, Toronto's here, and you're going this way, he goes, if you turn the steering wheel a quarter inch, he goes, you're nowhere near your destination.
Mm,
And I went,
wow.
whoa. And he goes, a quarter inch in life can make all the difference in the world. What's your quarter inch? And I remembered I was at breakfast with him and I'm sitting there and his
Shocking.
VP of sales, Mark, was beside me. And I'm like, and I'm just like a deer in a headlight. And when you let that sink in for a minute, like changes everything. You know,
Yeah.
Mark, what's your quarter inch with your family?
Mm,
DJ, what's your quarter inch with your sales sequence? Like, think of that for a second. A quarter
exactly.
inch makes a world of difference. You know, you look at it in golf, if anyone's a golfer out there, right? I know if Trey and Hayden, you guys are golfers, so this
Yeah,
means a
yeah.
lot. Literally millimeters. Golf is a game of millimeters.
Yes.
To having the sweetest shot on earth to being in the woods, lost. Like millimeters. And I believe sales is a
I'm glad
game
you
of
brought that.
millimeters or quarter inches. And if we as sales reps, you know, I put a post out this morning saying like every interaction, every opportunity, every sales call, every single piece of our life, every presentation is an opportunity to get better, to do more, be more, and achieve more. If we apply or we learn from it. Mark, perfect example. You could have said, you know what, honey? Yeah, for sure. I mean, listen, I got to work, but I am spending a lot of time. I am in Turks and Caicos. I'm not sitting at my desk for 9 hours a day. I am on vacation. So if I'm going to do a little bit of thing, I'm going to do a little thing. But you stopped, you moved that quarter inch and you're like, I got to pay attention to my wife more often.
Yeah.
Oh God, yeah.
I gotta get in. DJ, you could have just kept sending those emails and said, you know what? It's just a bad batch of leads, just a bad batch of leads. Nobody's home. You could have kept saying, but you moved that quarter inch. You said, I need to change something. I need to stop. You know, I did the same thing last week in my sales cycle, and continued into this week. I realized that, and it came from this saying, and Catherine Hollingsworth, Catherine, if you're watching, God bless you for it. She
Shout
said,
out,
you know, Dan,
Catherine.
when you give somebody a sip of whiskey, they develop the taste for whiskey. When you pour it down their throat, you make them sick. And think of that for a second. As sales reps, are we pouring our beliefs, our perspectives, everything we because we're passionate about what we do. Let's call a spade, right? Mark, you know you can help companies become more profitable just by buying money better. You know that.
Yeah.
End of story. You wouldn't have opened a company and put your entire life at risk, like your entire, your house, your everything at risk to open Green Shoot FX if you didn't believe it. DJ,
Yeah.
same thing. You know you can help. But sometimes this technobabble flies out of us and we pour like a ton of whiskey down somebody's throat and they puke instantly. It's like I'm going through my templates, and I always thought, oh man, I got a pretty good open rate, I got a pretty good response rate, and I'm going through my templates and I'm going, holy shit, Dan, you're not I'm pouring one of those big fucking 50-liter gallon jugs of water, but it's filled with whiskey, and I'm just waterboarding the people. You know what I mean? And it's like you start thinking about it, and you're like, oh my gosh, but I'm in as you're going it, your perspective is, oh no, this is really good. This is well written. But
Yeah.
we are. What about asking permission?
Yeah.
Hey,
Well,
honey, I know we're on vacation. Would you mind terribly if I took 20 minutes to go send some emails?
I'm so glad I'm so glad you brought that
that's
up.
exactly how it is, right? And at the end of the day, we like I make it that, or sorry, we as a family have made it right at 5:30. I'm leaving my home office, and I am going to be present for dinner. I'm always back in the home office for like 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night anyway for a bunch more hours. But that's because the family are away. They're in bed doing their own thing. But if it's 5:31 and I haven't sent a message, a text, even if I'm going up, like it's going upstairs to say, look, I know this is starting off with that, and genuinely meaning it. I know this is important to you. This is important to me as well. But I just have to finish this thing. Please, can I have 5 more minutes? Like not acknowledging her feelings, my son's feelings. I'm an ass if I don't do that.
Yeah.
I'm an ass.
Yeah.
And I have to, it took my wife to call me out on it several times before I finally listened. But I listened in the end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it usually does, brother. Our wives are super smart, way smarter than I'll ever be. I'll tell you
Yeah.
that right now.
Yeah.
And you know what? My wife has hit the nail on the head with business partners, with friends, and she's like, I don't know, Dan. I'm like, oh no, it's all good. Like we had one where I literally had like I couldn't even tell you how much intellectual property stolen and an entire company swept out right from underneath me. And my wife told me months earlier, don't go into business with this person. Don't do it. And I'm like, oh no, you're overprotective. And my wife is protective. But I'll tell you right now, after that, I listen to her when she says, hold on a minute. I stop in my tracks, like stop. And I'm like,
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
it's
whatever
like,
you
and
say,
try,
you know the
oh,
answer.
I mean, unreal.
And so Mags, speaking of good
So yeah,
Skyview
sorry,
coaches.
we're missing. What do you mean audible? Oh,
Yep. So
look
Lisa
at
said
Maggie
audible.
jumping in.
Perfectly. Yeah. Audible
Yeah,
quarterback changes the play when he sees the defense is lined up differently, changing when it's not planned, and
yep.
and even more than that. So that's exactly what an audible is. But
Mhm.
Lisa, I think the key to really being successful with your audibles is trusting your gut and seeing those. The quicker you see them, and the quicker you're more open to what you're seeing, and that's what helped for me this week was like, okay, I'm sending these and this sounds really good, but like something's
Nothing's
not right.
happening.
Yeah,
Hmm.
something's not right. And instead of going weeks or months just being
Yeah. Hmm.
sold and so committed to this, you and again, it's knowing your data, being obsessed with
Yeah.
your data, being obsessed with
Course
your
correction.
metrics,
Yeah.
and yeah. and just
Yeah.
figuring it out.
And it's also like when it comes to a sales sequence, Lisa, when you're talking about audibles through a sales sequence, it's important to go back. So like the first part of anyone's sales sequence should always be qualifying. Does this customer match my ideal client profile? Does it match the business, the long-term business that I want? And I've always, to use even numbers, if you have 100 people that are qualified, you should be 80 to 90% close rates. So once they get into your sequence and they're qualified, you should be in that 80 to, I'll go 80 to 90% close rates. And the reason I don't say 100 is because people might leave, things might change. But when you qualify a prospect, that should be somewhere around your close ratio. If you're around 30%, it's not the follow-up. You have to go back to the qualifying stage. And that's an
You're
audible.
missing something.
So yeah, something's off in the lineup, right? And so Maggie said it perfect. Like in the football lineup, they all line up and they're lining up for a blitz, and then the defense or the offense does something like, oh shit, blitz isn't going to work. Change. They call an audible on the line. It's the same thing with your sales sequence, and it takes, like DJ and I, we talk about it all the time. It takes a lot of effort because you're consistently looking at data and you're saying, okay, I sent 100 out with this email sequence, or this is the way I cold called this 100. This is the way I cold called or emailed this 100. What is the return on each? Where does the prospect fall off? So, if you're going through your sales sequence and you have 2-3 meetings scheduled, and all of a sudden, somebody falls off on the 4th meeting, and then the next person falls off on the 4th meeting, it's okay. What have I done in meeting 1 to 3 where they fell off in 4? And as sales reps, a lot of the time, and I'm going to say ego, but I don't know if ego is the word, because like females typically don't have the egos males have. And I don't mean that in any ill way. It's just, you're better at saying, okay, here's the problem. I got to address it. Let's just fix it and move on. But it's, I guess it's just that pride in believing the way we have it is good. And after, almost 29 years now in the industry, I can tell you one thing: I'm constantly changing the way I do things. Always. Because as humans' needs change, and as our prospects' needs change, and as the market gets flooded, like I remember vividly, perfect example, COVID started, I was doing video connections on LinkedIn. Every single connection, I would send a video with my connection request. I was getting 85% of the people I would send them to, I would book meetings with. 85. You do that now, you'll be lucky if you get 20. Yeah. Because video messaging is no longer new. It's no longer like, holy shit, this person has balls to do that. I'm going to go, I want to talk to them because it's caught my eye, right? So things change, things evolve. And, even when we got on, DJ, first thing I asked Mark is, dude, is that a background, or like, are you really still in Turks? And he's like, dude, I'm in Turks because we're used to those backgrounds that people are doing. Right. So we get used to it. So it's like, we always were ever evolving for this, it's, and that is sales. And that's the amazing thing about sales is that's the game. That's the strategy. That's the chess match. Is how am I going to like get ahead and get that for me is all the joy in the world, is figuring that shit out. Because when you do, it's like, oh my God, I'm like, what was Mr. Burns?
But the thing is, as soon as you do it, though, it's going to change, guys. Don't expect it staying there. It's always going to change.
Yeah. Jeff says, there are no true sequences to sales. Every prospect is different and must be addressed as such in the moment.
Amen.
Mm-hmm. Well, the only constant is change, as they say, right?
Yeah, the only constant is change. And you know what? It's a beautiful thing. It is. It's a beautiful thing. And, you have different companies doing different approaches, and every approach works to a certain person. Right? That's what it is. I know a company that's got literally an entire, we put together an entire full process sequence. They're all using the same words, and they're killing it. And then another company, it's the market they're in. And another company, it's not working at all. All right, call an audible. Let's go back to the beginning and try it out. I mean, this is what marketing is. If any of you are in marketing's testing till something works. If you look at and I know this isn't really a show on marketing, but if you look at a Facebook ad, for example, an Instagram ad, even a LinkedIn ad, Like the longevity of those ads used to be 6-7 months. Now they're like 2 weeks because it gets worn out quick and you got to come up with something new and something new and something new and something new. And this is the game of marketing. This is to me, that's the enjoyment. I love it. Like, how do I create something that's somebody's going to go, man, that really caught my attention?
Yeah, like,
or the
wow,
best part is when
okay,
you're talking to a prospect and you ask a question where they go, man, that's a great question. It's like, damn, I did it. Yeah, baby.
Oh yeah. You instantly want to go, yes.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Yes, I did it.
Exactly. You have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. Yes, Lisa. Love that. DJ,
Dan,
my man, 35 minutes in. Pull us out of here, brother.
We're over again. Mark, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us, especially for taking the time from the family. Go say hi to the family for us and give them a big hug from us. Everybody watching, thank you again for joining us for the again, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. till 9:30. You want to start your day right. Get motivated. Get off the sales island and come join our crazy start of the day. Start it with us. You can follow us live below at Sales Chatter Live on YouTube. Like and subscribe. Also on LinkedIn. Thank you to Daman and American Logistics Centurion Trucking. Thank you to all of our guests this week. It was amazing. We had a great show.
And we got a jam-packed week next week too.
Yeah, it's just getting fun, guys. Thank you guys all. And thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
John Lennon. When I was 5 years old, my mother always told me that happiness was the key to life. When I went to school, they asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up. I wrote down happy. They told me I didn't understand the assignment. I told them they didn't understand life. Boom, guys. Choose happiness. Choose.
Now then.
To the HPLS podcast. Live, relevant, and high performance information, conversations,